speaker for today. All right, and again, welcome. Now that we've started recording, we'll welcome again. So today we're going to talk about woodworking and the trades and how impactful community-minded shops like HatchSpace can be in rural areas. And our speaker today is Tom Bodett, who's with HatchSpace. Tom Bodett made his national broadcasting debut in 1984 on NPR's evening news program, All Things Considered. Fangirl here. He has been the brand spokesman for the Motel 6 lodging chain for 35 years, the author of 7 books and numerous audio publications. His work has appeared in a wide variety of national newspapers and periodicals. He's a regular panelist on NPR's satirical weekend news quiz, Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, and frequent performer for the Moth storytelling series. All right, Tom, I will turn it over to you. Tell us all about yourself and HatchSpace.
All right, so thank you very much, Juliana. It's so great to be here, and I love the work that you and Radically Rural is doing. And I'm assuming that a lot of you who are watching this are involved in your communities in one way or another, and looking for ways to make it better. So I salute everyone involved here, and I also want to apologize in advance for the media show you are about to see. Lars has got the trigger for the slideshow. I did not see the slideshow until about 2 minutes before you came on. That was all on me. So I'm apologizing in advance for Lars. If things seem out of sequence, it's because it's me. I'm out of step. Lars is totally on it. Got it? Okay. Lars is on it. So one of the things, if you are involved in your local work, that you know what, Lars, I need my screen back here. How do I do that? I'm sorry. Never mind. Where'd it go? There we go. All right. Does everybody else still have it?
I don't see the slideshow anymore. Do you guys?
Yeah, I don't know how to have the slideshow and my little outline up here at the same time. So go ahead and put the slideshow up. I'll do it another way. Go ahead, Lars. So thank you, and I forgive the amateur hour here. It's it's all my fault. You know, my resume wouldn't speak to me being the founder of a community woodworking shop, and it grew from me and another guy just thought, well, wouldn't it be great to have a little place for people to come and work on their little projects where we can have some really nice tools that they might not have at home, and just see what happens. That was 5 years ago. Now, everything has changed since then. 5 years ago, I was a woodworker interested in showing other people some cool ways of doing things. And now I feel like I am a radical rural community activist. And this came at me out of nowhere. What I thought I was doing was not what I was doing at all. My history with woodworking is I grew up with a do-it-yourselfer dad who was remodeling our wreck of a house my entire childhood. I went to Alaska and I was a hard drinking house builder for about 10 years there. And then I got into the radio and media work that Juliana mentioned. And there I am. That's actually a mullet. That's not a costume. That's an actual real mullet that you're seeing there. And during this time, I was no longer a hard drinking house builder. I was just a hard drinking alcoholic. And in the early 90s, I got sober, and as a part of my sobriety, I began woodworking again. I started spending time in my shop, and not with any conscious saying, well, this is what I need to do in order to stay sober. It's just what I did. I was a single father living in Alaska, far from everything. When you give up drinking in Alaska, you pretty much give up your social life for a while. So I had nothing to do, no one to talk to about it. And I decided to start making things. And now, 31 years later, still sober, still making things. And one of the things that I want to base this talk on is a very important element of that. As you know, if you're paying attention to what's going on in rural America, that there's a lot of parts and pieces. There's you can talk about poverty, you can talk about a lot, you know, all the jobs that fled. There's a number of things in play, but we can only kind of work with one thing at a time, or at least talk about one thing at a time. And recently, our Surgeon General declared that there was an epidemic of loneliness in America, that 1 out of every 2 Americans at any given moment is experiencing some form of loneliness. And in rural areas, this is even more acute for different reasons, including people's ages. It's a very aging population, geography, all of that, distance. I guess that's part of geography, isn't it? Excuse me, Brattleboro, Vermont was not immune to any of that, is not immune to any of that. And what we found pre-COVID, when we opened our doors, was that people were coming in, not really, I mean, none of them really knew how to work with wood. We weren't anticipating that. They were coming in to hang out with people. That was kind of, it was almost, the way I used to put it is, we found a club that was waiting for a clubhouse. And that caught on very quickly, and people wanted to take classes. We didn't have classes, so we came up with classes. Women came in, they wanted to work, but they wanted to learn from a woman. So we found a woman teacher who came in. She's dynamite. We have as many, if not more, women working in Hatch now than men. That's a problem that took care of itself. And then we shut down for COVID. And during that shutdown, we were able to move to a better location in town, more room. And when we reopened after 18 months, there was a rush of what's the word? There was a craving for people, from people, to be with people again, to do something useful and to learn something. As you remember, during COVID, I mean, we all had sourdough starter, right? And everybody started a garden, or they started growing chickens on their roof, or knitting, woodworking. It was, people figured out when they were isolated and alone that working on something, making something, offered relief, comfort, and what they were looking for. So all of a sudden, the population at large experienced something that might have beforehand seemed like an isolated problem, which is people being home alone with nothing to do. So through this flood of people, we have grown now. And I'm jumping around a little bit. So Lars, if you want to keep up with the slides in any way you feel fit, please feel free to change them at any time. Since we've moved, our physical growth went from 2,000 square feet to 7,000 square feet. Our community of members went from 30 to 117, and we reopened 16 months ago, I think. The classes per month went from 6 to 8 per month to 14 to 20. And this includes expansion of our instruction team, our teachers from 12 to 35, and we're reaching over 500 students each year. And this is in a town of 12,000 people. We have grown and cultivated a dozen community partnerships with youth organizations. We're sponsoring the Rosie's Girls Summer Camps this summer, which is sort of a shop class for 5th grade girls, to put it crassly. There's community arts organizations where we combine expertise, like we had a woodcut class here at HatchSpace, and then people took those to a print shop just down the street, and they printed their the prints off of the woodcuts that they did here at HatchSpace. We've done the same thing with painters and framing classes, and we're nurturing more of those collaborations all of the time. Our women's only classes and our BIPOC nights are growing in popularity. The women's was off the charts right from the beginning. It's a way to create a safe space for women to come and learn something that most of them have never done before, never even been asked to do before. And it's like me in a yoga class. I mean, I don't want to be the only one in there who doesn't really know what's going on and making those noises in the back of the room. And I think women kind of feel that way in a wood shop generally, because they've generally not been exposed to it. And it is awesome to watch what is happening in these groups and how they have developed over, some of them have been with us now for almost 5 years, into very good woodworkers, very productive. They're getting better, they're getting more efficient, and we've just watched the personal growth that comes with that. As you know, when people learn something, they become bigger and they become more confident. They become better, and better communities come from better people. And so it'd be nice to say that, wow, was that, I'm sorry, did I lose something?
We're all set. We just muted someone who had unmuted.
Oh, I see. So I'm jumping around a little bit, and Lart's going to strangle me later, but the backdrop to this, and I'm probably not saying anything that you all haven't worked on yourselves, is the problem across the nation is that the celebration of knowledge and tech over manual forms of labor has been like 30 years in the making. For good reason. They put all the STEM programs in the schools, and all of that was necessary, and it was a good thing to do. Unfortunately, it was done at the expense of the wood shops and metal shops, automobile repair shops all too often, and that has remained so. This has contributed to the decline in the rural talent base, because there's not a lot of tech jobs out there in the heartland. And what people who want to thrive and need to thrive in rural America they need more practical skills. They need some hands-on work and training. And if they're not being introduced to it in their schools, it's almost as if it doesn't exist, or it's not something that is valued. And that is the main thing that I'm concerned about as a former tradesperson and a proud carpenter, that what are very good jobs and very good careers in the trades are thought of as a second tier way of life now. That if you're not on a college track in high school, you're somehow on that other track. They send you over to the career center, and you feel like you're somehow less than. We all know, any of those of us who have worked and lived around the trades and people who make things and create things, is these are not less than people. These are amazing human beings, and you know, intelligence, virtue, and creativity is spread pretty evenly around our society, you know, country or city, and rich or poor. So what I see is a big sort of re-examination of who we are as people. It's happening so much on its own with, again, I think COVID catalyzed this urge we have to do something real again, get our hands on something that we can make a difference with. And, you know, where are we going with this, you know, American project? You know, what is the work ahead? I think it was Lincoln's line, we need to, you know, form not a perfect union, a more perfect union. The current one is way less than perfect. So what do we have to do to fix it? Take it to the shop. And is a wood shop or a clay shop or a metal shop, is that going to be the panacea? You know, it might be, because it covers so much of the ground that we deal with, from the lack of skilled labor to the lack of agency in our lives that's been created by our technical lives, to the loneliness of the lack of community centers across rural America, the whole bowling alone thing, where all the Elks clubs and bowling teams and all the things that used to sustain small town community life are gone. And what can you do that's sort of a, you know, we still have our churches and we have our clubs and we have our things, and they're very parochial, if you will. They're all little silos unto themselves far too often. But what we have found here at HatchSpace in Brattleboro is a wood shop is sort of an issue-free zone. Everybody comes in here to make something and to learn how to make something. And the mix of you know, financial background, personal background, racial, all it doesn't seem to make a difference. Everybody is equally engaged in what they're doing. And I've heard this said about men, that we talk shoulder to shoulder, but not face to face so much. And I think that that's very true. I grew up in the Midwest, so that's very true for kind of everyone in rural America. We're not quite, we're bashful people, shy people, as our friend Garrison Keeler used to say. So when you get two strangers working at a bench side by side, just talking as they sand or carve or draw or whatever it is they're doing, they get to know each other without even knowing that they're doing it. That is a really powerful thing that transcends the medium, if you will. What's the next slide, Lars? Yeah, what is okay, so some of the things that we've also discovered is people want to be useful. And when you've got a workshop in your little town, it has tools, but it is a tool. So along with learning and the connection it provides, the self-fulfillment you might feel from working in there, we make things, and we make useful things. And when our community sort of figured that out, if you will, they started coming to us with different projects. Do you think you could make some benches for the trail along the river that follows the old railroad tracks? Because it's a volunteer group. They had no money, they had no means. So we made benches, and there they are. We had we made some tiny free libraries and pantries for the local homeless and recovery groups to put out around town. Same thing. They had an idea. They wanted to get it done. They had no means or money to do it. They come to HatchSpace. We were able to, with the work of our volunteers, make these useful things. One of our bigger successes last year was a new art teacher in a local public elementary school found an empty art room with no tables in it, and it's 6 weeks before school starts, and what it would cost to furnish a room was something like $40,000. So it's like no chance. So she and the school came to HatchSpace and said, is there any way that this could be done locally with community service work? And the answer was yes, we could. We were able to get the materials donated. We were able to organize our member volunteers. The parent group from the school's end volunteered, and we made 10 of the tables to the specifications that they needed. It was it wasn't a simple matter of 4 legs in a table. They had to roll, fit through doorways, tilt, all this stuff. And so we did those $40,000 worth of tables for $10,000. And that $10,000 was the stuff that we couldn't beg. And that money was donated through the school and our supporters. And she had her tables before the first day of class. That's a huge win for everyone involved. Everyone, the town paid attention to it. There was great write-up in the paper with pictures in the paper of all of our volunteers and people doing these things. And what that does for a person, as any of you know who have volunteered and can drive by every day something that you help build, is it's something that never goes away. It's kind of it's a shot to the self-esteem that very few things can replace, and it never stops. I have spent probably the last 20 years of my life working for free, and I am richer than I ever have been, and I feel better, and I feel better about myself than I ever have. And I've had a lot of fun with my career and my life, and I've done a lot of cool things with a lot of cool people. But what I'm doing now, what I get up and do every day by making things, helping people make things, and giving this stuff away to my community, it is I'm at the peak of my life right now in the fourth quarter of it. That doesn't happen very often, and I see it in the faces of the people that we have working in this very building right now. It's just like, God, where has this been all my life? We have another big, just to run through a couple other projects that we're working on. We've been approached by another nonprofit, which is sort of an agricultural environmental awareness farm that is building a large event center, an event space, like a 200-person event space, and they have engaged with HatchSpace to build their banquet tables. And so that's a lot of tables. I think it's 30 10-person tables. We're going to do it with a combination of volunteer work from the high school students, who all have to do a certain amount of community service to graduate. And we'll bring them in to build some number of tables, expose them to the joys we all know from woodworking. And these are kids who are not necessarily the least bit interested or had any intention of taking a shop class during their high school career, but they're not going to get out of it without having spent a couple weeks making tables with us if they show up. And who knows, that might plant a seed with one or the other of them to do something different than maybe what their high school counselors had planned for them. The other groups that we would like to engage with this are places that are near and dear to my heart. Of course, the recovery community, being in recovery myself, it's a huge part of my life, and having experienced the effects that woodworking has had on my sobriety, and understanding the power that it has to rebuild a person when you've taken yourself down to that bottom. We are actively looking for ways to engage that community in our town with the help of recovery experts, to begin to introduce that same process. There are a lot of other organizations doing this with veterans who, it's also been shown to help tremendously with PTSD and the related problems with that. And face it, the opioid crisis devastated rural America, and we've got to come back somehow. Is this the cure for that? No, but it is a cure for that. And I think it's one that's worth focusing on, and worth putting our time and money into. So with that, I don't know where I am with time. Oh, not too bad. I would love to figure out, excuse me, to figure out how we connect on this. I know the work that you excuse me, it is such a bad pollen season here this year, and every once in a while I think I get a whole lung full of pollen. What I want to do is connect with you all. I know you're all doing important work, and Juliana, I know for sure you are, and the network that you have, we're all kind of working on the same thing. And I think some of us are reinventing the wheel and we don't even know it, because we don't know what else is out there. And I think the way we avoid that is by staying in tune with what each of us are doing. And one of the things that we've discovered is that these spaces that we build have to be about materials processes. We need to be making something. It doesn't have to be woodworking, but it's got to engage the hands and the mind in order to be successful. Inclusion is another one. Here in Brattleboro, again, with the gender inclusion, that became a non-issue, but mostly because we got lucky, I think. We had the right people show up, the right teacher to attract the women, and we had some amazing women who showed up to lead the way. That's not always going to happen. There's going to be communities where that's going to be a struggle. You open up a wood shop, you end up with an old white man's club. What do you do then when that happens? We're working on that very strongly here. Like I say, we got lucky with how it happened here, but we know how it happened. We just didn't have to make it happen here. You may have to make it happen in your community, and we can help with that. Also with the BIPOC community, we've made, Vermont is a very white state. There's not a lot of diversity statistically, but on a community level, there certainly is, as well as economic diversity. So there's things that need to be done intentionally to address that, and from the outset. As Lars likes to say, you know, it's the old, you only get one chance to make a first impression. So from the moment you open your doors, you want to make sure that everyone in your community feels like it's a place they might feel welcome in. And the other thing is to, you know, we built it and thought, well, they'll come. Well, we did, and they did. That might not happen either. And if they don't, you're going to have to do some things. Not everybody we wanted here showed up. We had a real difficult time finding people who wanted to teach. It's still, I would say, our choke point. Although I'm happy to say we've been around long enough now that we're kind of manufacturing our own teachers, because they're getting good enough that they can teach themselves. But if we've learned nothing else, and this was a piece of advice I got from another director from another makerspace when we were just opening, is he said, don't try to overthink it. Just open your doors and let your community tell you what they need. And we did that, and we listened. And as I said at the top, we're nothing like I thought we were going to be. We are a community center, and we are a school, and we're a really, really good wood shop. I thought we were just going to be a really, really good wood shop. And the other two things are actually doing work that is bigger than we intended, more important than we intended. And that's what gets me out of bed and coming down here every morning. I've had woodworking in my life for my entire life, but the sense of community and the sense of recovery that I'm feeling through our work here at HatchSpace, I have nothing to compare it to. So in closing, what we've learned is a lot about the business mechanics of what we're doing, the community dynamics. We're small town people ourselves. We understand the social aspects of the work we do at a visceral level. And that helps a lot. There's far too many solutions, I personally believe, coming into rural America that are people who don't live in small towns guessing what's best for them. And that has been created a huge problem in our politics and in everything else. And suddenly, you know, all you have to do is show up with a solution, and you're kind of immediately the enemy. It's like the joke I used to make is that, you know, we tell people in rural America, vote for us and we'll get your teeth fixed. And their answer to that is, what's the matter with my teeth? And I think that goes across all lines, and small towns doing for small towns and building it for themselves, I think is where the key to us coming back together, as I said, as a more perfect union, is going to happen. What we can do as you work on your own local issues is we can help with local engagement, planning events. I could be available to appear. Sometimes the hardest thing is getting that first group in the room. So you want to make an event around it to have that happen. Get the stakeholders in there, have some meetings afterward. Community assessment tools, like what is the makeup of your community? What are they looking for? What's our best guess about what's going to work there? Business plan development, that is severely underrated. I've come to really appreciate the value of it under Lars's leadership here. We didn't start with Lars. I wish we had. And since Lars has come on board and really figured out what it is we're doing and the steps we're going to take to do it, I am much less of a cowboy than I used to be, and we are far more effective than we used to be. That I cannot overstate how important a business plan is to rural development. Even though things like, well, it's just us, we're just folks, you know, we know everybody. What do we really have to talk about? It makes all the difference in the world. And this is speaking from, you know, being a convert. I've been self-employed all my life, so I generally bristle at planning meetings of any kind. But Lars has brought me into the light, and he can help you bring you and yours into the light as well. Operations and planning, that again, it's all part and parcel of the same thing. Know where you're going and know how you're going to get there from, you know, from a long ways off, or at least comfortable ways off. And then of course, always the biggest elephant in the room is the fundraising and fundraising strategies. Who are your stakeholders going to be? Where is the money in your location, whether it's going to be public money, local, state money, local money, foundation money, individual donors. Who are they? What do you think their capacity is, and how do you build an organization around those figures? We can help with that. We're raising money in a town of 12,000 people ourselves, so we know how difficult it is to find answers to those questions. And then another thing that we can do is provide some promotional type media, workshop media. We have some very talented people on in our network and among our membership here have produced some really outstanding video work. I'd like to close and before I take some questions here with showing you this one small video that we have used to really good effect with our donors and our outreach over the past year. If Lars can get that going.
We don't have the sound for that. And what we can also do is we can always email everyone who registered with the link to that too, if that doesn't end up working, because
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's very short, but if
you make something with your hands and you feel every element of it, every sense that you have is involved with that. It takes a tremendous amount of focus and problem solving. It smells a certain way, it feels a certain way. The whole experience is immersive in a way that nothing else I've done in my life. What it is my recognizing the power of this, that it's had not in just my life, but the lives of the people that I see around me. They can't believe, number one, that they did it. And the satisfaction, that sense of self that they come away with. If you think of what are the two things that really make the human being distinctive in the animal world, is our capacity for language and storytelling and our ability to make and use complicated tools. The premise being that so when we're making things, we are at our best. We are fully human.
Oh, I always tear up. All right, well,
that's a perfect kickoff into our discussion. And
Yeah,
Tom, thank you so much for sharing about HatchSpace and your life and your work. I was hearing so many radically rural themes throughout there, including specific language and terminology we use, like rural communities supporting rural communities, not just taking an urban model and trying to contort it to fit a rural setting, but realizing that the solutions and the heart comes from within. And if we can support and empower rural communities to do the work that they want to do, then that's really the starting point. And also talking about how, we are all about models that are working and not reinventing the wheel. So, you've done this with HatchSpace, you're doing this with HatchSpace, you'll continue to learn over time. And your willingness that you shared at the end to consult with other folks and help them implement something like this in their own community is perfect, because why start over when the growing pains have happened? I mean, for Hannah Grimes, we've developed some of our Center for Entrepreneurship. We have some programs that have been developed over 25 years, and we're packaging those and giving them away freely to people and saying, here, this business lab course took us 25 years to develop, use it, iterate it. And there's a community in Skowhegan, Maine that has taken it and run 2 business lab courses so far, and it's really impacting their community, and they'll continue to learn and change it to fit them. But they didn't have to spend 25 years doing it. So we really do work together to create that density that doesn't naturally occur at all the time in rural communities. So thank you so much for providing us with a really good model of bringing folks together in rural communities, of economic development, of social change, and so many other things. Actually, one of our sessions at the summit this year is about the social impact of agriculture. And I'm hearing a lot of the same themes, right? Our second roundtable we ever had 2 years ago was about Benevolence Farm in North Carolina and how previously incarcerated women are using farming to re-enter into society. And the recidivism, I don't know how to say that word, the reincarceration rate is much lower, significantly, for those who are going through this program. And, you know, being a person with PTSD going through therapy, you know, when they talk about mindfulness and anchoring yourself in the present moment, you know, that video was talking about what you smell, what you touch, what you see, and just anchoring yourself. I can see that as such a valuable tool for so many things. And, you know, we here at Radically Rural tend to live a lot in theory land. Well, we do both, right? Like, we're actively doing the work ourselves, but we're also talking about theory of change and rural economic development and stuff. And like me personally, I know that the reason that I have this position and I'm doing this work today is because of woodworking. My husband is from Southwest Virginia, and you know, had a challenging upbringing in many ways, and his wood shop was really what anchored him and kept him engaged in a way that was safe and productive. And then he became a timber framer. And then we discovered Benson wood in Walpole, which is the kind of mecca of timber frame in modern America. That's why we moved to New Hampshire. That's why I found Hannah Grimes. That's why I'm doing this work. So, you know, it's a really interesting way to talk about, you know, this is how we keep youth engaged. This is how a lot of stuff happens. And it's one wonderful example. So I've talked too much, but let's find out some from other folks. We have Kansas, we have Michigan, we have Nebraska, we have folks from all over the place here. So tell us why you're here. What questions do you have? Are you trying work like this in your community?
You have John waving a hand.
Do you hear me now?
Yep.
32 years ago, we started the Guild of New Hampshire Woodworkers with 12 people, and now we have 730 members. I'm the president right now. This is my second time as president. So we are dedicated entirely to woodworking education. And the money that we raise, well, we publish this magazine twice a year. And the money that we raise, we give away to schools to buy tools for their wood shops, and also now to maker spaces. Suddenly, there's 12 maker spaces in New Hampshire. They're just coming up everywhere. In 2019, we had 65 meetings. Well, how is that possible? Well, we have the boat builders, the guitar makers, the wood carvers, the wood turners, the period furniture group, the beginners group. And I was very interested in your mentioning about the women's classes, because I'm just last week, trying to start up a group within the guild for that. So I think we've been successful because we're focused on just one thing, which is education, that we all help each other become better woodworkers. We have nothing to do with helping our members sell their stuff. We're just very focused on us all helping each other learn more.
Mm-hmm.
Not to go on too long, but I've been a wood turner, professional wood turner, for 60 years. I was very thrilled to see wood turning featured so highly in your video just now. Wood turning is a great thing to get into, so much for schools and anyone starting out in woodworking, because it's a very self-contained kind of skill.
Yeah.
So I just feel very lucky to have been involved with the guild from the beginning, and it's a real success story. And we are definitely emerging from COVID now, trying to get back up to those, 60 meetings a year. And I don't know what else to tell. I guess I'm done.
Well, John, we're well aware of you, and I would love to, between your 65 meetings, find a time for us to sit down, and I'm sure there's some common cause that we can do.
I would love that.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you for sharing, John. That's wonderful. Did you say it was a Woodworkers Guild or the Timber Framers Guild? I didn't catch
Oh,
that.
it's a the Guild of New Hampshire Woodworkers.
Very cool.
Website is gnhw.org. And you can go there and see all the stuff that we do.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else have comments, questions? What are you guys working on? And what more would you like to know? Lee.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Lee Schutte. I work at Dartmouth College in the engineering school. I'm a woodworker managing a machine shop and a makerspace. I'm sorry I joined late, and I might have missed a lot of content, but what I'm and the focus of this is a more rural economic development, but how much participation are you getting from the younger generation? Because I feel like a lot of these industrial arts skills were embedded in, in those of us who went to school 20 or 30 years ago, but there's a really broken link in our industrial culture, and it's, I believe, at a crisis proportion. So I'm curious, how you're reaching young people and whether you're happy with the volume of people that you are reaching.
Lars can speak to the actual numbers better. I would say this: we have had some success. It's not enough. It's a continuing effort. We have done one of our most successful programs for young people has been a build your own skateboard workshop through the Boys and Girls Club. The Boys and Girls sets it up as one of their summer camp offerings, but it all happens here at HatchSpace. It's a 4-day program, and they do everything from laminating it to they make the form. It's a vacuum formed, and at the end of it, it's a real deal skateboard. It's a nice skateboard, and they take it up to the skate park and they show them off. That's been really successful and very popular. We're doing a new thing this year, which is just for girls through the, I'm going to let Lars speak to this because I'm going to mangle all the names, but it's called Rosie's Girls, and it's focused on bringing girls into the tent here and introducing them to, their focus is more trades probably than crafts, but for me, it all starts at the same place. Whether you're going on to build a house or you're just going to turn a bowl, you're still going to need how to read a tape and wear your safety goggles and all of that stuff. So Lars, do you want to say a little bit more about our youth programming?
Sure, and I'm going to define youth a little differently. I'm going to maybe look at the 20 to 35-year-old cohort, in terms of young folks engaging. I think one of the things we've done is kind of reframe the conversation, right? Like, it's less directly about industrial arts. It's less directly about workforce development. It's more directly about experience and helping young people find meaningful experiences with their peers. And so it's when we have a young instructor who's teaching something in a very social and almost rule-free environment with some careful facilitation about safety, where we're drawing in, I'm just going to say the young and the tattooed, right? But young folks who don't look like or might uphold our expectation of a art, well, maybe it is arts, I don't know, but let's use your language, industrial or making oriented person. I think we have to create the conditions, we have to create the platform, and then step back and hand it over to young people. And that's when ownership thrives. And we see young people talking about these programs to their peers and bringing their friends in, and it sort of spirals forward in that way. I don't think we're as successful when we just sort of like put up a class, put up a very experienced teacher with 30 to 40 years of credentials behind them to then drive engagement. It's a different model, and we're learning as we go. And then there's, there's a gender bias when it comes to the technology. And so tools like our ShopBot, our Bantam Mill, our Shaper Origins, those CNC controlled tools tend to be used by the younger men. I think the women find, this is me speaking a bit out of turn, but more engagement around collaboration, shared problem solving, and sort of group building experiences is what I'd say. And so we have to kind of just reframe what we're offering.
I really like the way you're trying to bridge that gap. What was the term, the something tattoo generation, or that you used? But I do believe, so you had talked about, Tom, you had talked about, you don't care whether it's wood, you also might work in metal, and wood has historically been a foundational medium. You'd start off in wood shop, then you'd go to metal shop, remain other things, but it was a sort of we've got a very easy entry point, and yet it builds these skills for measurement, understanding the way things cut and move and manipulate. And so this, I'm really interested, because of where I work and the student body here, of how to make these connections with younger people. And if we look at the generation that we're currently in college right now, they grew up with No Child Left Behind, core curriculum, where all of this stuff was stripped out of schools. And then they were at the same time handed a laptop, a cell phone, and a tablet. And many of the students that we encounter here have never held a saw or don't know how to use a hammer. But these are tools of self-reliance. And if you watch movies like Star Wars and Terminator and what Matrix, it's all about this struggle between technology and empowering yourself and being self-reliant, because you know how to live in the analog world. So I think we have some great ways, as we hear about how AI can end humanity, how we can sell the importance of being self-reliant, and do that by whether we're making bowls or, you know, sawhorses or timber frames. I am glad I connected with this group, because I'm interested in empowering this generation that they're not going to save the planet unless they know how to work with tools, they know how about materials, so they actually can reduce, reuse, and recycle on a personal level.
And I believe, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you first, and then I'll hop in and close this out. Yeah.
Yeah, Lee, you're certainly preaching to the choir. We should go have coffee sometime. I love talking about this stuff. But I totally agree that we have really let down our young people by removing this from their experiences. And I see them recognizing it on their own. I have one of my sons is 20 years old. 20 years, he never showed any interest in what I was doing out in the shop, no matter how hard I tried. He's home this summer and he said, Dad, I want to learn how to do this. What can we do? So we're making a table for out back, and he's really engaged. He wants, that was all him. I think that, and that's a very discrete example, but I'm seeing that all over. And what gives me hope is, as you mentioned, you look at movies like, you know, the popular movies, our iconography celebrates people who can do themselves, the whole MacGyver thing, you know, that is a value that we shine a light on. So that gives me hope that, I mean, everybody wants to be the hero, right? So you keep seeing the hero fixing things. Well, maybe I want to do that. And I think there's a lot to it. And also our marketing is always like 6 seconds ahead of where we think we are. That's how they keep trapping us. And all through marketing now, there's what they call craft, where they, it's like the greenwashing, they're craft washing products, like handmade in theirs, you know, made by, you know, this, that, you know, they understand that people value this, or they wouldn't be doing that. They spend millions of dollars every year figuring out what it is we think we want. And so
we're meeting with John at 3:30, aren't we?
Just,
yeah. So that gives me hope. And thank you, Lee. Let's stay in touch, okay?
Yeah, just two quick ideas for you, Lee. We do have a young person here who did go to HatchSpace and do something there. Lily and her partner went and took a class at HatchSpace, so looping young folks in the conversation to say like, what would attract you? What would draw you in? Having folks from that age group to give ideas. I personally think a good idea could be almost like a touch a truck sort of thing where you have at festivals and other community events, music festivals, whatever it might be, the option for people to come over and try turning something for a second. Because for me, I do lots of different crafts and lots of different things. Woodworking hasn't been one of those. And my eyes just glaze over when Drew talks to me about it. My husband, he'll bring me in the shop. It is boring to me to just like watch him. But the moment I start doing something, I'm there. And I'm like, oh, now I'm getting it and I get the endorphins and now I want to do it again. And it's like, I think talking about it isn't really going to do much. It will do something, but not much. And so I think if you can just get people exposed, even for a second, it kind of triggers that like, oh, I could do this. It becomes real. And then, yeah, I think also you're talking about engaging youth and combating, that our generation and younger being the ones who need to save the planet. Like if you don't have a relationship with the earth, you're not going to be motivated to care for it. And so, one of my favorite books is Braiding Sweetgrass with Robin Wall Kimmerer. And I feel that through many of the trades and through farming and gardening and connection with the earth, it's really going to be the way that we get folks engaged in a meaningful way. So we are past time, but this was such a good conversation. I wish I could just let it keep going, but I want to be respectful of everyone's time. And thank you so much for being here. Lars did drop all the contact information for HatchSpace in the chat. So if you would like to follow up and continue the conversation, get virtual coffee or in-person coffee, it's so cool that we've had such a great representation from all over the country here. And so many more folks will see this recording afterward as well. And appreciate all of your time. Please come to Radically Rural in September. Conversations like this will keep going on so many different relevant issues, and we need your voice there. So Lillian has dropped the registration link in the chat. Again, it's sliding scale. We want to do whatever we can to help you get here without barriers. So thank you again. And thank you, Tom. Everyone have a wonderful day.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Good to see you all.
Bye.